Hey, well, good morning, Catalina Foothills Church. It's Pastor John Stone here with our Tuesday morning devotion. And we're getting close to the end of the Sermon on the Mount. It's been a great series. And in chapter 7, verse 13, Jesus says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they're ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them." And there's more to that, but this coming Sunday we're going to consider, what Jesus means by, or even what he's teaching us by entering through the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction. Jesus is saying several things here, and really 13 down through verse 23, and really to the end of the chapter, sort of one thought. But one of the things he's saying here and that he's teaching us is that there is an exclusivity to Christianity that cannot be denied, and this exclusivity really bothers people. Now, let me come back to that point. Here in the context, Jesus is saying that those teaching you, the Sadducees and the Pharisees, and in that day the Sadducees would have been the more progressive liberal group, and the Sadducees would have been the more conservative group. The Pharisees would have been the more conservative group. But he's saying that both of these groups are misleading you. Neither of those groups was comfortable, and both of those groups wanted to murder Jesus for what he was saying. And Jesus is anticipating this, and so he's telling you, be careful, there are many voices. There are many ways. There are lots of ways that will deceive you. You're going to be deceived by the Pharisees, those who are conservative, and you're going to be deceived by the Sadducees, those who are liberal, because what they're teaching is not the right way. In fact, he's going to say, and we know this, I am the way, and I am the only way. And Jesus is saying that very few people are going to talk about me. They're going to talk about a lot of other things. They're going to talk about their way of reading the Bible. See, be careful, he says, right? Watch out for false prophets. My way of reading the Bible is superior to their way of reading the Bible, and therefore follow me. And Jesus says, one of the things Jesus is sort of pointing out here is that those who can be trusted will speak really about me and what I have to say. But these two groups, the groups that that are listening here, they're false prophets. And he's saying that there are many false prophets. It's not just those who the Pharisees and Sadducees argued about the Bible. They took the Bible on some level seriously. The Pharisees took it far more seriously than the Sadducees. But what's interesting is both groups were false prophets. They were deceiving those who were listening. And what, Jesus is saying, look, this is a broad road. There are lots of voices on this road. The voices of those who listen to the Bible, and then obviously the voices of the pagan the pagans around them who would say, well, it's not in the Bible at all. It's in human philosophy. Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the road that leads to destruction, and many enter through it. There are many different voices that will deceive you. But he says, but small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. What's interesting about this is sometimes when you hear people talk about this, they take this language, small is the gate and narrow the road that leads to life. They take this as language of essentially, it's harder. This road is harder. But that's actually, there's nothing hard about the road that Jesus is pointing to. He's just simply saying it's a narrow, small, singular road. And that is the only way to have salvation is in me. It's exclusive. And the work that I will do, I alone can bring you salvation. I alone am the way for someone to come in. I am the gate. He says that later in John, right? And it's not that it's harder. It's not that it's this narrow path up a mountain. He's just saying that road, that tiny little road, and only one man is on it. That's the only way to get to heaven. That's the only way to be right with God. And we're going to talk about this at length. People hate this. People want it to be broad. They want there to be many voices in many ways. And Jesus says, no, there aren't. There's only one way. And he's going to say in clarity later when they challenge him, I am the way. I'm not harder. In fact, Jesus' way of salvation is easier. He says, come to me, all of you who are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. His way is easy. It's just singular and narrow. Hope you have a good week. It's good to be with you this morning. Look forward to seeing you this Sunday. Have a great week.